It's a pleasure to have a good friend of mine on the program, who I only get to talk to like once every year or so, actually. Michelle Malkin, how are you, my friend?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I am doing great, and you have another blockbuster on your hands here. Let me read the title. Sold Out, How High-Tech Billionaires and Bipartisan Beltway Crap Weasels Are Screwing America's Best and Brightest Workers. Wow, that's to the point, isn't it?
Well, it's very Levin-esque, wouldn't you say?
It is Levin-esque. And I'm going to tell you something else. On this immigration issue, the truth is you were the first to be hammering away at this, really for a decade and a half or so. So go ahead. Tell us why you wrote the book.
Well, the voice of high-skilled American workers has been muted and whitewashed, not just by an open borders, ideological, left-wing, progressive media that doesn't care a whit about American sovereignty, let alone American workers, but also by this bipartisan collusion in Washington of big business and big government behind the scenes who preach about the need for strengthening the middle class and making sure that college-educated students in science, technology, engineering, and math have good opportunities, and then they turn around and they're sabotaging and undermining them every step of the way with pieces of massive legislation like the Gang of Eight abomination, which are essentially permanent pension plans for immigration lawyers and all of the D.C. front groups that support them.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. So, your book and so forth, there are obviously certain Republicans running for president who you cannot abide. Who are the top two or three who you consider among the worst on this issue?
Obviously, Jeb Bush, and unfortunately, the whole Bush enterprise. We had to fight them tooth and nail, all of us, 2006, 2007, 2008. And Marco Rubio, who is basically McCain Jr., and who served as a willing tool after campaigning as a Tea Party conservative and then turned native in Washington faster than you can type D.C. And I think what I would urge people, and there are a lot of folks out there, especially in Florida in the grassroots, who knew that the American people were being sold a bill of goods, that you can talk a slick game, but when you are in the hip pocket of people who are selling American workers down the river, you cannot be trusted. And it's the kind of people that Marco Rubio leaned on during all of those Gang of Eight abominations and backroom deals. The immigration lawyers from firms like Fragament, which were making money, tons of money, hand over foot, on expanding all of these programs, whether it was H-1B or EB-5, which peddles green cards to the highest foreign investor bidder. And, of course, all of these issues are coming to the forefront, whether you're talking about the guest worker programs or, as you've been warning this last week, and, of course, all today, the kabuki theater that went on with this for show refugee so-called reform bill.
Who are these high-tech billionaires who you have exposed here? I mean, we know there's Mr. Facebook. I think he's worth $50 billion, I just read, which is fine, a billion here, a billion there, but why screw the rest of the country? And then, of course, Mr. Bloomberg. Who are the others?
Sure. Well, of course, Bill Gates for a long time has marched up onto Capitol Hill demanding not only massive illegal alien amnesty, but, of course, busting the entire cap system on the already flimsily enforced H-1B program. And I think what John Miano, who is a software programmer turned American lawyer who is doing amazing work, Mark, in the courts to make sure that American workers have standing to sue both the Obama administration and prior Bush administration over these executive administrative fiat expansions of these programs, and he's had success doing it. He's my co-author, and of course, we think it's really important that people know all the names of the front groups that pose. As patriotic groups, they all have American in their name. The National Federation for American Policy, Foundation for American Policy, and American Immigration Council, all pouring money into undercutting American high-skilled workers who are then forced to train their replacements as a requirement of obtaining any kind of severance pay so that these people can put food on the table.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I mean, this is a crony capitalism center, isn't it?
It is, and of course it's no coincidence that there's a constellation of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Karl Rove types, and all of these Beltway open borders groups, which have enriched themselves at the expense of the American worker. And the legislative smoke screens that go on about, oh, yeah, we're going to protect American workers, or whether you were talking about the illegal alien amnesty or these refugee programs, sure, we're going to vet them. Sure, they're going to have background checks. And of course, all of these things are illusory, and that's one of the things that we're really trying to get people to understand, particularly about the H-1B program, is that fraud is at the very heart of the program. It's not a problem of aberrant abuse with regard to the Disney workers or the Southern California Edison workers. It was people like Paul Ryan who were behind the scenes during the writing of all of these so-called reform legislation bills in the 1990s who were deliberately and explicitly making sure that American workers would be screwed over in the law. It's in there, and we cite it chapter and verse in the book.
And basically, they fire these American workers who spent a fortune going to college in these STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, where the wages now have not really effectively increased since the 1970s, where young people are graduating from college with these big student debts, and they cannot get jobs in this field, and those who have them are fired and replaced with these people coming in under these H-1B visas, and they actually have to train them.
Yeah, that's right. It is a huge disgrace. In essence, what it is telling anybody who graduates with one of these STEM degrees that they should have a shovel stapled to their job, because eventually they will have to dig their own graves in the manner that workers at dozens and dozens of these companies have done. Over the last 2 decades, the H-1B program is 25 years old this month, and only now is the fish wrap of record at the New York Times discovering that the practice has gone on, and of course, falsely portraying it as some new, strange aberration, like I said. But it all rests, of course, on one of the biggest lies that we bust in the book, and many independent academics have said this for years now, but, thanks to this open borders propaganda machine, it keeps getting repeated and recycled and regurgitated that somehow there's an American tech worker shortage, when you've got a third to a half of all tech jobs now being taken by H-1B workers, while you have 11 out of 15 million STEM diploma holders in America unable to find jobs.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, too, what motivates the two parties. Obviously, the Democrat Party is motivated by votes, and it's extremely cynical, importing as many people as they can into this country and getting them citizenship as fast as they can. And, of course, the Republican Party, this is who funds their coffers in these campaigns against conservatives and Tea Party candidates. I mean, that massive bill that was passed this summer, Michelle Malkin, with McConnell's support, that they were negotiating behind the scenes before we knew it. Did you notice they included a massive increase in the amount of money that the National Republican Senatorial Committee could raise in order to fight us?
Yes. Interesting. I mean, here we have Obama overseas naming Republicans as the worst enemies of the world. And then, of course, those of us who are die-hard movement conservatives not only have to fight those progressives who trash us overseas, but, of course, people within the Republican Party at the center of leadership, which never seems to go away. I mean, it's the same old business as usual, whether you spell their name Boehner or Ryan or McConnell, who work hardest to try and undermine the very heart and soul of the conservative movement. It's disgraceful.
Well, this is a terrific book, folks. It's out. Perfect time to get it. Sold out. How high-tech billionaires and bipartisan beltway crap weasels are screwing America's best and brightest workers. I wish I had thought of that title. It is a great title. It is a great book. Folks, go out and get it. You can get it on Amazon.com. You can get it at any major bookstore. And Michelle Malkin, it's always a pleasure, and I want to wish you and your family all the best.
an early happy Thanksgiving to you too, Mark. Take care.
And to you too. God bless. And her family's had its challenges. It's just publicly known. Her cousin went missing, and her daughter was struggling. And we wish her all the best. She is a terrific lady, Michelle Malkin. She's a tiny little lady. She probably weighs like 87 pounds or something like that, and she's full of energy. Isn't that great? She's a pistol. Absolutely great.